a guest with me. We've been talking about doing this for a while, and now we finally made our schedules mesh. And to all my other friends who said they want to do a podcast, got Darren here. He's taking the lead here. So if this goes good, then I hope you all come on here. Anyway, this is Darren Waldow. We've been pen pals since COVID started.
2020.
Since about 2020, we've been pen pals on Instagram. And normally when I follow people on Instagram, we don't really talk much, right? We just follow each other. That's it. But Darren and I, we've been going back and forth. Found out he's a truck driver. We're pretty similar in a lot of ways. So one thing led to another, and here we are today. I got the bright idea. The good idea fairy came to me to start up a podcast. Said, "Hey, Darren, let's talk about trucking," and he agreed.
Absolutely.
So here is Darren from Arizona. That's the best
guys.
I can give you.
You're good. Just a nitpick. It's Waldo, like the books.
What did I say?
Wadlow.
Oh, Waldo.
Waldo.
Did I say
like
Waldo or did I say Waldlow?
Yeah, I think you said Waldlow.
You know, I said Waldlow. Does it say Waldlow on your Instagram?
No,
it says Waldo.
it's Waldo, but there's a W on the end.
Okay.
They messed it up at Ellis Island when my family immigrated from somewhere in Eastern Europe.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, interesting. Well, you shouldn't be surprised if I mess your name up, because I woke up this morning, did a podcast, and I referred to my last job as being, I was more autonomous. I meant to say anonymous, not autonomous. And I said it twice, and I didn't correct myself, and I didn't even edit it out because I didn't see it till I already, so don't be shocked I messed your name up. Anyway.
I don't take any offense to it. My grandfather, whose last name is Waldo, called me Daryl until I was 18.
Oh, okay. Daryl?
So.
Okay. It's not even your name.
No.
All right. So maybe just let everybody know as best you can, right? Because we were talking previously what can and cannot be said, what our employers will let us get away with and not get away with. What can you say about what you do?
So I am a delivery driver. My career has gone from lower 48 to Western 11 to an I-40 relay, to now I'm a local delivery driver, and basically all I do now is hazmat. I drive a small flatbed truck. My route runs anywhere from a 4-pallet F550 flatbed truck up to a single screw double axle trailer. And I basically work for one of the two major industrial gas suppliers.
Okay. Now, the type of truck you're driving, did you have any experience with any of that stuff before you got with these guys, or did you have to learn that new skill? I've never driven flatbed before, and pretty much what I do is flatbed hazmat now. I'd never driven a day cab. I'd never driven a single screw tractor, and now that's all I run. I'd also never run a push button transmission, and that's what our trucks are now. Oh, push button, you mean automatic? Is that
no, I run automatics, but like the Freightliners and the Peterbilts have a paddle, like the twist knob on the steering column. My first automatic Peterbilt had like a stick shift on a center console. The Volvo that I drove had a stick shift that was attached to the seat. This truck literally has drive, neutral, reverse.
Oh, that sounds kind of like. I think we run the same thing with. See, now I'm drawing a blank. Even though I drive the same truck every day, I'm pretty sure our Max they've just got the same thing. You push button.
So my primary truck is a 6-speed Allison. It's not a 10-speed or a 12-speed like I'm accustomed to. It's a 6-speed hydraulic Allison.
Okay, I've never even heard of that before.
It's similar to what you'd find. It's a Freightliner, but it doesn't have like the big DD15 or DD16 motor. It's got, I think it's a 12 or 13 liter Detroit diesel in it. And it's basically the same transmission that you'd see in like an Isuzu Top Kick or a Chevy Top Kick.
Okay.
But it's a 6-speed push button Allison transmission, as
so
opposed to like the Eaton pneumatics.
Okay. So when you're talking about all this stuff, I'm listening to you, and it sounds like you know a lot about trucks. It sounds like
I pay attention to what I drive.
Okay, you pay more attention to what you drive than I do. I think I just listen because any of my coworkers watch this, they will listen to what you just said, and they will consider their conversations with me, and they will say, "You didn't have a freaking clue what he was even talking about."
Yeah, maybe. I do this to my wife all the time, and she's like, "Why are you telling me this?"
Yeah. So, and now being Canadian, I used to do long haul. I've run all the states. Well, what would that? I would say that's the contiguous USA. I've run all of them. Not Alaska, not Hawaii, obviously, but all around the states. So when you say lower 48, Western 12, you're
Western 11. So I started off lower 48 would be the contiguous United States minus Canada and Mexico, and not including Hawaii and Alaska. I think in the 6 months that I did lower 48, I think I drove 38 states in a semi. It was either 38 states in a semi and a 39th because I've driven in Hawaii but not a semi, or it was 39 states in a semi and Hawaii is the 40th state that I've driven in. Okay. Western 11 is pretty much Colorado West. Okay. I have not hit the Dakotas in the Western 11, but I've done pretty much everything but. My most recent company that I left in December, I did primarily California, Arizona, Nevada, starting towards the end of my 7.5, 8 years with them. I was doing just a relay back and forth between Western Arizona and Eastern New Mexico, drop the trailer, go to bed, turn around and come home. Occasionally I'd go out to Springfield, Missouri, or Amarillo, Texas, to one of our terminals and drop there and do the same thing. But pretty much I ran back and forth between Eastern New Mexico and Western Arizona.
Okay, so when you were doing all this long haul stuff, like were you like some people I know? So I watch a lot of podcasts, like trucker podcasts or trucker YouTube channels. So a lot of these guys, they live, eat, and breathe this stuff. Was that you when you were doing this? Like what?
So my first company, I was out 2 months at a time, didn't get any home time. And they'd say, "Oh, well, we'll give you a day off for every 6 days that you're on the road." And then they'd call you after 34 hours and you've been out for 2 months and go, "Yeah, but you've had your reset. You're ready to go back out again, right?" No, I've been out for 8 weeks. That's 8 days off. "Yeah, but why don't you just go ahead and come on back out?" And I was running as a team. That guy came and did home time with me at my girlfriend's house at the time. She's now my wife. And we had trained together too. So there was 3 of us, and this will go into my training stories, but there were 3 of us, him, me, and a trainer with 2 beds in a single a Freightliner sleeper cab for, I think 7.5 weeks.
Wow. With
no home time. The second company, they said 5 to 8 weeks out at a time with a day off for every 6 that you were on the road. And I never had to trade in my truck for it, but they said if you're going to take more than 48 hours off, you have to take your truck back to the yard, clean the truck out. I'm like, dude, I live 400 miles from the terminal. I'm not going to, if I want to take off 6 days, I'm not going to spend 2 of them in transit.
Wow.
To go change trucks because have to go to LA. I don't even have a car. So that means somebody else has to take 2 days off of work to get me to and from the yard. No. And I took 5 or 6 days off at a time, and it made them mad. And I said, whatever. And I finished out my year with those 2 companies. And then I got into a company where I was 12 minutes from the yard. And yeah, we slip seated in sleeper cabs, which is obnoxious. But when I first started off, I was picking up a loaded trailer here in Arizona, take it out to California, southern Arizona, up to Reno, deliver the freight, take it back to wherever we were getting reloaded, which was Central Valley, California, east or western coast, or California, down to Yuma with produce, bringing it back to the terminal here, and then it would go east from there.
Wow.
But with those, if I had a good run, I would be out for 3 days, go home for 10 to 15 hours, come back out, pick up another trailer, and go do it again. There were times that I'd have a 6 or 7 stop produce pickup, and we're talking, it was the load started in Sacramento and finished in San Diego, and then had to come back here. And it took 7 days to load the truck because they made, 7 appointments for the same day, 500 miles apart at the same time. And I don't understand how you can't get, it's not a teleportation device.
No, yeah. That happened to me.
And then
when I did long haul, that's what happened to us. Impossible loads. So yeah, no, I've been there. Yeah.
So then I went to the relay side of it, and it was pick up a trailer that somebody else had loaded, haul it 690 miles one way, drop it. If I had hours to pick it up and pull it back 40 miles west, I would stop and pull back to Tucumcari and sleep there, and then I could have like an hour shorter day the next day.
Yeah.
I tried to do that in the winter when I was running good and I knew there was going to be a storm, give myself an extra hour on the road to fight the weather. Now I'm pretty much, I think the longest straight line I do between my terminal fill plant and a customer is about 120 miles. I average a short day for me is about 90 miles of driving. A long day can be up to 270 with anywhere between 4 and 13 stops. And we do everything from weld gas to medical gases and other industrial stuff, food and beverage stuff, and some questionable agricultural industries, if you get my meaning. They grow things in water. They grow things in water tanks in unmarked metal buildings.
Interesting.
As is, yeah. Big industry in California and Arizona and Nevada. So we supply them with the things to keep their plants alive. It's not my personal thing, never has been, but whatever.
Yeah, well, we don't ask questions, right? We just hold the steering wheel. That's,
right.
You say so.
That's what I tell my customers when they start saying, well, why can't you do this? Listen. And I watched your podcast about leaving money on the table, and I'm like, I can try, but when it comes down to it, we've got a sales guy, we've got my manager, we've got store managers that all handle the sales aspect, and at the end of the day, I'm an idiot who holds a steering wheel and throws things off the back of a truck.
I'm a convenient idiot. If I think it's going to get me in trouble, I'm a convenient idiot. Oh, yes.
Right. And I'm trying to learn. I mean, I've only been at this job for, I started January 2nd, so I'm still learning the capabilities of what this company can do. And they're an international company. We literally operate on every continent except Antarctica, and I've hauled gas cylinders that have been to Antarctica.
Yeah.
So we are literally an international company, but I'm now pretty much limited to a much smaller area, which is nice.
Yeah. Okay. So I just looking at this, you know what? My Zoom is giving me a hard time here. We got like 10 minutes left. What the heck? All right. Segue. Your horror story. We might have to, you know what we might have to do? If we get cut off, we're going to have to pick it back up because we'll have to start another meeting. Maybe that's how that goes. And I'll have to edit it. Segue into your horror story.
So I'll start by saying this. I learned to drive a truck in West Memphis, Arkansas. The steepest thing I'd ever seen was a freeway overpass in an empty 32,000 pound, 30,000 pound dry van. The first load I ever picked up was a frozen produce load at 79,990 pounds. And I don't know if you're familiar with the I-15 coming out of LA. It was 11 o'clock at night. I'd been up for about 15 hours at that point because we went in to the shipper. My partner wasn't allowed to come out of sleeper berth. We delivered there and then waited for another 7 hours to pick up a load. And then my clock rolled around while I was sitting in the driver's seat, and I got to drive out at 11 o'clock at night up El Cajon in stop and go traffic at effectively 80,000 pounds in a manual transmission, stalled the truck 3 times in traffic on the highway, freaking out, absolutely just, dude, I haven't slept. What's going on? You need to help me. Trainer's sitting next to me. You need to learn how to ship, blah, 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 blah. Dude, just stop being part of the problem and be part of the solution. Talk to me like I'm a human being. I'm 33 years old, 35 years old. I'm not some moron 20 or 21-year-old that you can scream at. Stop it. I'm an adult.
Yeah.
And he's screaming about, how do you not know how to shift? You haven't driven a truck in a month because it took 3 weeks to get a trainer after a week of orientation. And we hit the top of the hill. He smokes his final cigarette and goes, I think you got this. Didn't teach me how to turn on the Jake brake. Went back to sleep.
Yeah.
We got into Needles, California. He came down as I was, freaking out coming down the hill, trying not to smoke the brakes. Because again, I didn't know how to use the Jake brake, didn't know how to downshift, and could hardly shift going in a straight line with 80,000 pounds, and plops into the passenger seat, lights up a cigarette and goes, the only thing I can tell you about way stations is they're all the same. They're going to do everything they can to screw you and jam you up. So pay attention to the signs and the signals, and the master trainer emblem on the side of my truck might get you out of trouble. It might not. And went back to bed. We got into Arizona. I stopped because I really had to go to the bathroom and had no idea how to back the truck up, and stopped in the fuel island. He started screaming at me about finding parking spaces, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I can't see straight. Took my 30, got back on the road heading east on the 40, got through Kingman, Arizona, and into the steep downhills, and really freaking out because I don't know how to control the speed on a truck. And
I remember
hallucinating. Yeah. Hallucinating because I'd been awake for 20 hours, and I turned my head and the bugs on the mirrors became bird poop smeared across the window and never went away. And I'm just like, I can't drive the truck anymore. It's not safe.
Yep.
You need to get out of bed. And he's like, you need to learn how to do this. I'm like, dude, it's my first shift. I've been awake for a day.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in this chair for 22 hours. Get out of bed and help your student. If you don't get out of bed, I'm going to jam the brakes and I'm going to throw you out of bed. Pulled over on the side of the road. He started screaming about, you're a truck driver now. You need to know how to do, 11 hours behind the wheel in this 8.5 hours. It's absolutely unacceptable. You need to figure out, blah, 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 blah. Cool. I'm not driving anymore.
Yeah.
And I sat in the passenger seat and listened to him scream and run through his meth tics for, the next 6 hours before it was time for my partner to get out of bed and finally drive the truck. It continued on like this for 8 more weeks.
Wow. I'm surprised you didn't just get out of the truck. I mean, I don't know, but if you're new, you probably didn't know any better, right?
So I'd been told by the people that I'd gone to school with, tough it out. It's going to suck. Your first year is going to suck. Your entire first year is going to suck. Make it through. You've earned the right to call yourself a truck driver. Fast forward 9 months, I'd been through the 2017 winter, or the 2016-2017 winter. That was absolutely horrible. Northern California got 17 feet of snow in 2 days. And I had driven in snow in a car before. I'd never done it in a truck, and had to figure that whole thing out by myself. And this kid from the second company that I worked for had been through his 140 hours of school, orientation, 5 weeks of training, and a week of flatbed school. And he was going to pick up his new trainee. And I'm like, dude, you're not qualified to pick your nose. You have no business. Have you driven in snow? Dude, I've never seen snow. You're not qualified to teach somebody else how to do anything but kill themselves, kill you, and kill other people on the road. Don't take a trainee. You're not qualified. Well, how long have you been driving? 9 months, and I'm not qualified to train somebody how to drive a truck.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that terrifies me about this industry.
Yeah. And that was only in 2017, you said?
Or I got my license. I got my license in February of 2016.
Okay, so this wasn't that much longer. Yeah, you've been driving 9 months, then this guy comes along. Yeah.
And he's literally been driving this summer. I'm like, you have no business. I don't know. You don't know what you're doing.
Well,
but the company says I'm qualified.
No. It takes you a good year, at least, to get used to backing a truck up even. And even then, you're not really ready, because you haven't faced that many different obstacles, right? Like, so no, it's almost a dinosaur mentality. Like, go back to the trainer you're talking about, who expected you to drive insane amounts. And
he'd been driving for 40 years.
Yeah, like the trainer I had continuously kept telling me, "You're in the big leagues now. You're in the big leagues now. You should be able to do this." And I'm like, okay, I guess this guy says I'm in the big leagues. I don't know anything about this. So I guess when you say I can drive 60 miles an hour in a rainstorm without slowing down, I can't even see. But you say I can see because I'm in the big leagues. I guess I'm in the big leagues. You tell me that I so he did the same thing. No pulling over, no sleeping, because you're in the big leagues. Yeah. You got to do it. Dinosaur.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing it for 9 years now, and I've never trained in this industry. I don't want to train in this industry. With this new company, I would probably be willing to take a trainee out, and I'm going to have to when we get a new driver hired, because he's going to have to learn my route. But it's an entirely different story. I'm not going to bed and trusting my life to drive as a team with somebody who I can't even knock it off. Don't do that. You're done. Get out of the driver's seat. You don't get to drive the truck anymore. It would be, hey, guess what? We're in the ditch and you're maybe alive. Yeah. Okay, so Zoom is giving me some issues here. We're going to have to pick it up. I'm going to figure out what's going on here. Okay, so we'll pick it back up then. Okay. So you had a trainer that expected you to drive an insane amount of hours. Like, would you say over 20 hours? It wasn't that he expected me to drive for over 20 hours. It's that we'd picked up a load, and the way the company worked is you worked in shifts, obviously, but we went to a shipper, or we went to a receiver. Our shipper was the same as our receiver, but because I delivered the night before, and then sat there while my clock ran out and my partner was asleep, we weren't allowed, unless we were going to actually start driving during our assigned shift, we weren't allowed to change status. So I was off duty for like 12 hours waiting for, they unloaded the truck, had about 6 or 7 hours plus whatever the unload time was, and then went into a different dock to reload the truck for another 6 or 7 hours. He didn't come out of sleeper berth, and I was expected to start my shift over again, having sat in that driver's seat for the whole time.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. Okay, yeah, no, that was, so they spent their time doing other things. That's what you're...
He slept, yeah. And I mean, the company had similar policies regarding, like, they understood that we were a team trained, and the policy was if you were going to spend more than X amount of time without a load, they were supposed to get us a hotel room so both drivers could rest, because there's only 2 bunks in a truck and there's 3 people. It's not like this predated England's 3 bunk trucks. But irrelevant to the situation, there were 3 people in 2 bunks.
Well, that was my first red flag. You told me there's 3 people with 2 bunks. That was my first red flag when you started telling me the story. And
the trainer slept 18 to 20 hours a day.
Yeah, so he was kind of, and you said he'd been driving for 40 years.
He was an owner-operator.
Yeah. So he was like, I see that with old school guys that have been doing it forever, because my trainer had been doing it for 22 years back in 2001. So he started in the 80s. He would have started in like 1983. My trainer did.
Wow. This guy, I think he was 68, 69 years old when he started training us. And he'd been in the military driving flatbeds for like 5 or 10 years. He'd been training for this company for 10, and he'd been just running outlaw prior to all of that. So I didn't even know what most of he looked at like a methed out Jesus.
Yeah.
He didn't go home very often. He was an owner operator. He basically got to employ us for free for whatever the company paid training wages. And he got like $2 a mile for us to drive his truck. In 2 months, as trainees, we put 47,000 miles on his truck.
Wow. So he didn't really care about, like, when I think of a good trainer, I think of somebody who's thoroughly engaged in the company, right? Mm-hmm. They're a company man or a company woman, company person, and they're going to teach you the culture of the company. They're going to try to make you feel welcome. They're going to try and make you want to be there, motivate you to do good. Not someone who leads by sleeping in the bunk, right, or doesn't care about the rules. They just has basically a bad attitude. That's what I think of.
Well, and see, and like I said, the company policy was we were supposed to get a hotel if we were going to sit for so long without freight, and then we were supposed to stay in the hotel for at least 10 hours. The problem was that in practice, the way the company went about it was, well, you can sit all day without freight. We're not going to get you a load overnight, so we won't actually get you a hotel room until 10 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that doesn't work when I've delivered the load at 8 o'clock in the morning and my partner is supposed to take over at 9 o'clock, and he doesn't get out of the sleeper berth until we go to the hotel that night, and he just sits in the bunk and does whatever, and I have to sit in the driver's seat because there's no place else for me to go.
Yeah,
and we had a couple of times where we got to a delivery early, and I got to sleep in the front seat of the truck for like 10 hours because we weren't changing shifts.
Yeah,
and then he'd be like, "Well, I don't understand why you can't get up and drive." Because I'm tired.
Yeah,
well, you need to learn how to do this. Yeah, but no,
like
not how you teach it.
And was I learn how to do what? Stay awake for 24 hours?
Drive stupidly.
Yeah. Because I remember when my trainer, I told you, he always said, you're in the big leagues now.
Right.
And I remember driving up through Ohio. I'm driving through Ohio. And I don't know if they sent us out as a team too. For whatever reason, he's supposed to be my trainer. He's in the bunk sleeping. And I'm driving. I'm all over the road. And he doesn't even realize his life is in danger. Like he did. And that whole experience is one reason why I don't do long haul and I will not do team. I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. Well, I did team training with my co-driver for 2 months behind the wheel with the trainer. And then we teamed for another 4.5 months before we were finally fed up with the first company's crap, for lack of a better term. And we got hired with the second company that I worked with, and I found out second day of orientation that he was done driving as a team when he told the guy in the shuttle next to me coming back from orientation, I'm not driving as a team anymore because it's BS and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, considering I'm the one that got you hired here, thanks for the heads up.
Yeah. So, okay. So where you're at right now, you have not trained anybody as of now.
I train. So the closest I've done to training in trucking, because I've trained in every industry that I've worked in, but the closest I've come to training in trucking is my last company. I was a go-to evaluator for new hires. If they needed an evaluation, I'd take them out on an hour-long, take them out, drive them around, let them drive around, whatever, say, okay, you got to back into a spot. These are your conditions. Find a spot that's not a straight line back, put it in there, whatever. I don't care how much you pull up. This is rear wheel trucking. You're not going to fail because you pulled up 3 times instead of 2. Yeah. I don't care as long as you can get it in there, because as truck drivers, we all know some days you can back up, some days you can't. And it's whether you can get it in there without hitting anything that matters, not can you do it in under 30 seconds.
Yeah. It is funny how that works. Sometimes you can't back up. You have no spatial abilities.
And honestly, when I went to the relay, I stopped backing into docks. I went to relay after a 2-year and change stint on workman's comp because I'd fallen out of a trailer at a shipper, had 2 surgeries, and effectively was intimidated and lost my back. I could do a straight line back. I would do pull-throughs whenever I did my 30. I would find the biggest, widest open spot to back into because I was intimidated. You spend 2.5 years not driving a truck and it freaks you out. And I just wasn't willing to go back into California and deal with some of the tight docks that sucked when I knew how to back up a truck.
Yep.
Now I have to blindside a truck, and I've never blindsided. Yeah. So I'm not as intimidated as I once was, coming back from my injury at the beginning of COVID. But the closest I really came to being a trainer is I would take them out and teach them things about the company that the company wouldn't tell them. Teach them things about the truck that the company wouldn't tell them. Hey, they're automatics. You can do this. Hey, here's a fun trick that, a lot of people don't think about. When you're going down a hill and you're heavy, flip your blower fan on. It acts like an overdrive for your Jake brakes. Yeah. This is how you use the APU. This is how the company functionally operates. If you have any questions, call me, because the people in the office, they've never driven a truck before. They don't know what they're doing. They are administrative only. So call me and I'll walk you through it. If I can't, I'll find somebody who can. Yeah, that's as close to training in this industry as I've come, because I don't want to do the team mentality of, well, hey, it's nice to meet you. I have no idea anything about your background. You're a convicted felon for, whatever. And you've now been locked in my 100 square foot home for the foreseeable future. You've been in the truck for 2 hours. We're going to go pick up a load, and then I'm going to go to sleep because I've got to drive in 10 hours.
Yeah.
Nope. Absolutely not.
Well, that's not training. And that's the model they used with me. I got yelled at a lot that it was, like I said, it was a horror. I'm going to do a solo podcast on this whole thing. Yeah. So we'll bring it around then. You've kind of touched on it already, because this is where I like to go. I like to go, okay, how can we fix this situation? Sometimes I feel like as drivers, we're viewed at as being on the bottom. Our input isn't taken into account. And I feel like a lot of times the higher ups don't grasp that being on the ground level, we see things they can't see and they probably have no experience with. And
they really don't like it when you turn around and tell the people at the top, hey, the only people in this company that I work for is the owner. Everybody else works for me.
Yeah. Well,
as truck drivers, that's how it is.
Yeah. Well, I can see them not liking that. but no, so having said that, what would you like your experience that you took from that? Because I know my training experience, I have trained drivers, and what happened to me really shaped how I dealt with people, anyone that was put in my truck. I was never going to treat anybody the way I was treated. Right. So what would you say if you were to, you've kind of already hinted on it a little bit to your company, if they want you to be a trainer, because you have experience now, you got things to teach people.
Right.
And what do they need to know? What should they know?
So one of the things that I would say with like long haul driving is, especially for somebody who's come from a retail job or a security job or any job that doesn't involve logistics and transportation. I don't know anything about this industry. And my first shift, I'm doing all of this, and I have absolutely no model. You know, trainer picks me up and we drive to a shipper, but not he drives to a shipper and shows me you've been through 140 hours of school. It's okay. This is real world. Personally, I would like to see the first couple of days with, being on a truck, the trainer drives. Yeah. If, we get into a spot where there's not a lot of people around, we've got some extra time on the load, we're in a parking lot, we can get out, do some intensive like backing training in the real world where it's not cones, there's hard objects. But for the first couple of days, the trainee should watch the driver, or that the trainer drive the truck, watch how they interact with, shippers and receivers, watch how they interact with, law enforcement or scale houses, because going, hey, they're all different, figure it out yourself. Why would you set somebody up for failure?
He did that to me too, by the way.
I think that like at least for 2 or 3 days, because you're coming from I've never slept in a moving vehicle. I've slept in hotels for the last week because I've been in school, I've been in training, I've been in orientation, whatever. They need time to acclimate to, hey, I no longer have open access to a restroom. I have to plan out where I'm going to go to the bathroom. I have to plan out where I'm going to stop the truck because not every off-ramp is truck friendly. And they don't know that. I know people that have, one guy that I encountered my first winter, he'd been driving for like 8 years. He'd never been north of the Grapevine and never been further east than the hills of San Diego. Mm-hmm. He had no idea how to long haul, and his boss said, "It's snowing, I'm not going. Go figure it out." And sent him into that winter storm where they got 17 feet of snow. Said, "Figure it out." And he's like, and here I am about 9-10 months on the job, and I'm the one that's teaching him how to do things because his boss said, "I don't feel like driving in the snow this year."
There's a difference between figuring something out for yourself and being set up for failure.
And in this case, failure isn't just, oh, well, I quit my job, or, oh, I got fired. It's, oh, I killed somebody.
Yep.
And maybe I didn't survive. Somebody's deprived their family member. That's unacceptable.
You're driving downhill on Donner's Pass in the middle of a blizzard.
You're driving downhill on Cabbage in a truck that won't hold gear in a snowstorm unless you've got the exhaust brake on.
Yeah.
How do you teach somebody how to do that has never even seen snow?
Yeah.
That's unacceptable. But like I said, I think that for the first couple of days, they should get to observe an actual truck driver, not somebody screaming at them to learn how to hit your gears, learn how to stop teach me how to do it. Show me what I'm expected to do, because I'm going into this from a school standpoint where we back up, we get yelled at, we drive forward, we get yelled at.
Yeah,
that's not how you train people.
So you would suggest to your bosses that basically you're saying that the trainer should lead from the front.
Correct.
Right.
And then to go further with that, I would say that for at least, again, you have to acclimate to the living situation. You no longer have a bathroom 10 feet from your desk. You no longer have a bed. You no longer have a TV. You don't know what to do with your downtime, and you're not confined to 100 square feet. Most people have never lived in a place that's under 500 square foot. Now they're being confined to their bathroom. Let them acclimate.
Yep.
Let them acclimate with somebody that's showing them what's expected, how to do it, get the job done. Even if they're short local milk runs, teach them how to do the job for a week, 3 days at minimum.
Yeah.
Then after they go, okay, I think I can start doing this, let them drive the truck. Go into shippers with them. Make sure that you can, you're there to catch them when they fall, because it's not if they fall, they will fall.
Yep.
They're trainees. And most of these kids are 21 years old. They don't know what they're doing in life. And you're just here, figure it out. And I'm a big fan of figuring it out. But at the same time, when you're not used to that, when you're world naive and you're into an entirely different world that most people have never experienced and don't understand, it's overwhelming, and you're not learning anything. You're acting on autopilot, you're acting on instinct, and your instincts are wrong.
Yeah.
You know, how do you teach somebody to drive into the wind when they've always been taught to steer into the skid with a truck? You don't steer into the skid, you steer out of it, because if you don't steer out of it, you're going to flip the truck.
Yep.
You know,
you're bringing up things I haven't even thought about in a while.
You know, but and then for at minimum the first month, it should be a solo operation where the trainer sits in the passenger seat and walks them through things, talks to them, keeps them awake. Hey, I will sit over here for the next 7 hours, listen to your podcast. I'll correct you if you do anything wrong, listen to your audiobooks, listen to music, whatever you need to do to feel comfortable. If you want to just talk and shoot the proverbial shit, and I know you said no language, but you know, if you want to do that,
that one's okay.
You know, we could do that, and you can get a better sense of who I am. I can get a better sense of who you are, and what kind of experience you have. And then after that, you can teach them how to run the truck as a team. 2 months is probably acceptable when done right with a single student for training.
Yeah.
My current company, it wasn't designed this way. It happened this way, but I did like 4 days of office busy work, training videos and such. And then I came back and finished all the stuff that I had to do to handle materials before I could go out and go forth and do, the rest of the job and learn the practical aspects of it. Because I'd never rolled a cylinder. I drove dry van and refrigerated. I've never secured with straps. I had no idea how to nest cylinders. But then I went out. I was an observer for about 2 days and here, help move this stuff, and he's just running circles around me, but he's answering questions, and this is how you do it. And these are, I'll let you struggle, but I'm not going to let you hurt yourself. Mm-hmm. And I did that for 3 weeks, and it wasn't because I didn't want to drive the truck. It wasn't because I shouldn't. It was the way the company is set up. I had to go through corporate safety training, which literally we watched all of the same videos that I'd just spent a week doing. But I had to take 2 weeks to do it. And they had to teach me how to drive a forklift again. And they had to teach me how to do some coning exercises. And, the company standard for this is what we expect of you. And they were good about that. They put me up in a nice hotel. They gave me a company credit card. They said, expense your food, take the company truck, go, your downtime is your downtime. And I was in LA for 2 weeks, which I hate LA, but it was free.
LA's a zoo.
LA's a cesspool.
Yeah, it is.
So, and it was during the Palisades fire. So that was even more fun.
Oh, wow.
And then I came back and I did a month where once I'd gotten the authorization, I'd gotten my computer logins, because I also didn't have, login credentials. So I couldn't log into the e-logs and whatnot. So I couldn't actually drive the truck. Then I got my login information, and then I was on the truck with the trainer for another 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So and I'm still learning. I've been doing it since January 1st. It's May 3rd. So I've been doing it for about 4 months, 4.5 months. And I'm still learning, as we all should. The day you stop learning in truck driving is the day you should hang up your keys, because you're going to kill someone. Whether it's you or someone else, you never know. But never stop learning in this industry.
It sounds like we're kind of following the same path, because when I got into industrial waste, I literally found out I know nothing. I was like humbled by how little I knew. Mm-hmm. So bring this around then. So your message then, I was just taking notes as you were, so we make sure it's nice and organized. Lead from the front. That way, your trainee, they can acclimate or learn the culture, right? They learn a bit about the trucking culture. Like you said, You can't just go to the bathroom or whatever, right? You got to get used to living in a tiny truck. And then after you've done that, trainers should sit in the front and just correct them, get to know them a little bit, kind of like building relationships, right?
Right.
So what you're saying is lead from the front first, so they can watch, learn by example, and then you sit in the passenger seat with them, sit in the passenger seat, and just let them do what they do, and then just correct them, right? Which makes sense to me. Do you think that? Oh, go ahead.
When I first started driving, when I got into the last company that I worked for, my now wife finally got to come out and do a ride along for I think it was like a week and a half because she was on vacation, and her whole world changed in how she thought about truck drivers. And she'd been dating one since from school to now solo driver to now third company. And she still didn't understand until she went out on the truck with me. And she was like, I get that this company doesn't train, but you should find a company that trains and I'll come out and train with you. I said, you wouldn't like me at the end of training.
Yeah.
And she's like, what do you mean? I said, it's 105 degrees. You're going to go throw iron, because if you can do it when you can feel your fingers, you can do it when you can't.
Yeah.
If you screw something up, you're going to do it until I feel that you can do it. And that's another thing, is that your trainer should be there to correct you, not scream at you. They need to be a resource. And if you can't do it the first time, I will show you how to do it, and then we'll do it again. Ask me questions. Just continue and keep the conversation open.
Yeah. I feel like ideally, the trainer should be patient. Now, my trainer was 5 years younger than I am right now. I was 21 when I started driving. He was 40. And being 45 years old now, I actually think he just wasn't in a place in his life. You've been kicked around a little bit at your age, and like we're a little bit older now. I couldn't understand that when I was 21. And I don't think he was in a place mentally to be patient with anybody.
And truck drivers don't have this opportunity, but I think anybody that trains a truck driver should be a parent.
Yep. Yep.
Because it teaches you patience, and just as truck drivers, as creatures of habit, we don't have patience. Yeah. We don't have tolerance for stupid. We don't have patience for just get it done. And I think so my background is retail, real estate, security, then truck driving. And I no longer have the mentality to really be an effective trainer, because I'm jaded. I don't like people anymore. I don't want to deal with people. I will teach you how to do it. But I think the trainers should be a resource, they should be a motivator, and they should be a resource, and they should be an open book, not a figure it out your damn self. And I'm not here to answer questions. I'm here to make sure you pass the program so I can get my bonus and I can get paid for the miles that you drive.
Yeah.
That's not how you train people.
But it's good to know that right now you're not ready to do that, right?
Now with a 3-year-old, I think I'm in a much better place to do it.
Yeah. Okay. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. I think there's some people, they should just recognize, like, okay, so my trainer got fired right while he was in the truck with me. Yeah. And he was known for having new drivers quit the company because by the time they got done being in the truck with him for 2 or 3 weeks, they hated the company. Management knew this. They should, for starters, they shouldn't have let him go out with a student.
Right.
He should have known he wasn't ready for a student. But like you said, he probably got a bonus for it. He probably figured, he needed the money, so he just did it anyways.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, sorry, I just had a notification on my phone there. Apologize for that.
You're good.
So coming around, bringing this around, we'll wrap this up. We've been at this for quite a while. Excuse me.
Hey, we're honing your interview skills.
We are. It's real easy. I actually play Dungeons and Dragons also, and I'm the dungeon master. And one way to make the game a lot easier and make life easier on yourself as the DM is to get everyone else involved in the story, get them to tell the story. Life is easier, right? So it transfers the story.
And hey, what's one of the things that they always preach for new truck drivers?
What do they preach for new truck drivers?
Time management.
Okay, you know what? Well, you got me. You got me.
So I'm guilty of it too because I'm a talker.
Yeah. No, I get you. I could keep going all day, but all right. So let's recap really quick. So you see, Zoom is screaming at me again. Lead from the front, so that you drive. You would tell management, let me drive. Let them watch me drive. Let them learn from me. And for how long?
At least a couple of days before you turn them loose outside of a city.
Okay. So yeah, a couple of days. Yeah, because highway driving is a different story, right? So,
and it's easier to learn how to control a truck when you're not dodging, 2 million people like LA. Don't do that.
I was in LA as a brand new driver. I know exactly what you're talking about.
My first time driving a loaded truck was all over LA, Fontana, Pomona, Colton.
Yeah. So learn the culture. And then, then you lead from after leading from the front, you stay in the truck with them basically to coach them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can work on team driving so that eventually if it's a company like my first company, Covenant, or England, or any of the other companies that are solely, designed to be team companies, then you can teach them how to be a team driver, and you can say, hey, okay, we're going to do this for a couple of days and you're going to learn to sleep while I'm driving. And you're not going to have to drive those days, but you're going to learn to sleep while I'm driving, because who knows how to sleep in a vehicle? And sleeping in a truck is totally different than sleeping in a car. And you're not getting, you're getting an overload of information and you're not sleeping on top of it.
Yeah. Well, that's another issue. Yeah. I forgot what it was like to go on information overload because I knew my job so well. Once I got into industrial waste, it was blowing my mind. I forgot how to uncouple a trailer at one point. I was that overwhelmed with information. So anyway, I think we'll wrap this up here because we're going to run out of time. We are running out of time, literally, because I'm too cheap to pay for I'm too cheap.
Well, hey, I'd love to do another interview at some point, and we can kick around some topics. And I'm going to share this in my following and see if we can get you some more subscribers. And I haven't had a chance to share it, but I'm going to share and I've been trying to use some of your leaving money on the table stuff.
Oh yeah,
that's trying to be a better delivery driver, because I haven't been a customer service based driver in my entire career as a truck driver.
Well, those aren't I literally found a random book on the internet, so a book review, whatever. But yeah, no, but I have practiced those principles, and it again, it's all learning, right? Yeah. You go from one to one. The AZ world's huge. It's not just one, like, driving a big rig down the freeway doing long haul. Sometimes it's short haul. Sometimes it's local deliveries. Right. It's big. We all have our own experiences, and so when I got into industrial waste, I found out, number one, I didn't know as much as I thought I did, and then secondly, all the customer stuff, I had no idea about any of this stuff. Customer service, it took a while for it to dawn on me what we were doing. Yeah, how different it was. But anyway, all right, we got to cut this off here. Thanks for coming on, and
no problem.
I really appreciate it. It's good to talk to you too, because we've been pals for like 5 years now.
Yeah, right.
Anyway,
so, and absolutely, keep in touch, and when you have another topic that you want to discuss, I'm happy to do it.
We'll kick it around, because the more I think about it, there's like a million things. I just keep writing them down, and anyway. All right, cool, man. Thanks a lot, Darren.
Take care. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, man.
Have a good one.